What is up, Oklahoma fans, college football fans? Welcome into another special edition of Oklahoma at the Voice of College Football. This is Oklahoma Sooners Live. Man, a good time to be a Sooner. I feel like we've been saying that a lot lately, but it sure is. The Oklahoma Sooners are locked into the playoffs. That is something that is extremely special, something that we will talk about a little bit more into depth today. Because the rematch is on. The Sooners are hosting the Alabama Crimson Tide under the lights in Norman, the Palace on the Prairie. Very excited. I think this is going to be. It's honestly, if you think for the Oklahoma Sooners, I feel like there's a lot that is kind of leading into this matchup that really favors Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma has to feel pretty good about where they stand in a lot of this. And we'll talk about that much more. Make sure to jump in that live chat, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Of course, super chats will always be read live on the show. So if you wanted to make sure that your chat is read live on the show, then make sure to do that in super chat form. Of course, if you want to help support the channel just a little bit further, you can become a member for as low as $2.99 a month. We are trying to kick out content as much as we possibly can and keep you guys in tune with Oklahoma, but also just kind of sit here and create a community. So we want to do more for our members. Become a member today for as low as $2.99 a month. Great way to help support the channel as well. And then, of course, one last thing, quick keep the lights on type of read real quick. Just check out Oklahoma Voice of College Football merch at vocfb.com/shop. It supports the channel and supports the network. So if you buy any of the Oklahoma stuff, it goes directly to the channel. Part of it also goes towards keeping the network alive as well. Go check out all of our merch, hats, t-shirts, tumblers. We've got long sleeve shirts as well. We've got sweatshirts, all that fun stuff. Go check it out. vocfb.com/shop. That's down in the description below now. Thank you to Stacy for pointing that out for us. We didn't have that in the description. And so it was probably hard for you guys to find it if we were just talking about it and not throwing it down there for you. So please go check that out, vocfb.com/shop. You can check out all of the merch over there, support the show and the network here at Voice of College Football. But anyways, let's get into it because we have a lot to get into. Oklahoma making the college football playoffs. Really no surprise there. It wasn't like, when we were sitting there on selection Sunday that we thought Oklahoma wouldn't get in. There was a little bit of concern that they would drop Oklahoma to cater to another team. I felt like everything played out just right where Oklahoma really deserved to be in the spot that they're at. And I said this on a different show that I was on, but I truly believe that if you look at number 1 through 8, there's really not anything about this college football playoffs that I would really change. I think the committee did a really good job, a solid job of keeping things the way that they should have. I saw a lot of people saying that Ohio State should have dropped down to number 3 rather than just dropping to number 2, but I think that's ridiculous because it truly is punishing a team for performing well in their conference championship game, which is a bonus game. I also don't agree with the notion that you should not get punished for losing your conference championship game. I think there are 2 teams that proved that point to be wrong this past Saturday. I think BYU and Alabama both kind of proved that you can do some things that will really change a perspective about a team. And what should be a game that you are rewarded and not punished, I generally agree with that. But when you get completely dominated and blown out, by one of the teams. Obviously, it's a team that is in the playoffs, but you should possibly face some sort of punishment in those instances. I thought Alabama should have been punished. They weren't. Ultimately, when you look at rankings number 1 through 12, I actually agree with the rankings really well. Now, one thing is kind of set for Oklahoma, and I don't remember who it was that I heard saying this, but really. The committee isn't, and it was kind of a change in perspective. They're not picking 12 teams. They're really only picking 7 because there's 5 that get auto bids. Now that's where I kind of lean into the structure, and I don't like the structure because I don't like the auto bids necessarily, at least the way that they're set up. Because there are 2 teams here in this playoff field that I just simply don't think really deserve to be in the playoffs. And I think it will prove itself when we get there. Now, even if those two teams, and that is JMU and Tulane, were to perform well, I still don't think you look at their resume and say that they deserved to be in the spot that they were given. Now, could they come away with a Cinderella story upset win in the first round? Sure, they could. And I'm not saying that they could not. I'm not saying that they couldn't somehow Tulane beat Ole Miss, who actually beginning earlier on in the season got whooped by Ole Miss. I don't remember exactly what that score was and don't have it down on my notes, but getting dominated by Ole Miss. And now we see a rematch there. That's the other thing too in this playoff field is the rematches. We'll get to that in just a second, but could Tulane beat Ole Miss or could JMU upset Oregon? Yeah, they could. And I'm not saying that they couldn't upset them on any given Saturday. That's what makes college football and the parity of it so special. But my point is, do you deserve to be in that spot to be given the chance to upset that team? And that's where I just totally disagree. I don't think that you should. And so I mean we can sit here and discuss that all we want. I don't think those two group of five teams should be in, and therefore, if we were to take those two group of five teams out, because listen, they're ranked number 20 and 25, I believe, respectively. So the committee themselves is saying that they are not one of the top 12 teams, and so that's not just my opinion. That's also the committee's opinion that they don't believe that they're a top 12 team. So if they're barely a top 20 team or not even a top 20 team in JMU's case, then why are we rewarding them to the point that we give them a playoff spot? Why do we offer these auto bids? Now, if we were to take those auto bids out, now look at what it opens it up to, and you have BYU and let's see, so you've got BYU and Notre Dame in now, and I think that's the way it should be. I think Notre Dame and then BYU. And honestly, because of the way that Alabama lost in that championship game, they should be punished in some regard to move down to that number 12 spot, in my opinion. So I like the top 12. I think the top 12 is perfect the way that it is. Outside of, I would just drop Alabama down to number 12, kick the two group of five teams in. And I think this playoff picture is just about as good as it can possibly get. I think the committee got it right ultimately. And we can also talk about Notre Dame. I wished Notre Dame would have been in at number 9. That was what my hope was because I really liked the matchup for Oklahoma Notre Dame. What does Notre Dame do really well? They run the ball. What does Oklahoma do really well? They stop the run on defense. So I was really looking forward to that matchup. So the greedy side of me was saying, "Hey, let's kind of keep this thing going, and then let's do that. Let's have Notre Dame come down to Norman." I liked that matchup. Even if Notre Dame were to win, I still liked the matchup. I think that was a fun matchup. Put your best against ours, and so that's something that I was really kind of bummed about. But a lot of the gripe about the committee, and I agree with it, is that how can the committee sit here for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks and say that Notre Dame deserved to be ranked over Miami, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in the midnight hour, you swap those two teams around. I thought that was incredibly it was shocking. It was the right move. I think that's the way it should be. But it was shocking. I was very, very surprised that they ended up doing that because, first of all, it's the committee saying we were wrong. I think that was pretty shocking in of itself. Second of all, it's just I don't understand the logic there. How you can just all of a sudden come to like your eyes were opened, like Saul on the way to Damascus. His eyes were just opened and he just saw the light. That's what that moment felt like to me, and it was the right thing to do, though. And so if we're talking about who should be at number 10, and we're talking about just the top 10, Miami deserves to be in there over Notre Dame. Should Alabama have dropped out of the top 10 when we're talking about playoff teams? I don't know. It's a tough one. I think if we were just to do away with the auto bids and not have these group of 5 teams in there, it would have solved a lot. And I think the top 12 was perfect. Regardless, my stance on the playoffs, and then we'll move on. My stance on the playoffs has always been, let's just have 8 teams. And the way that I always thought before, now the way that the ACC kind of screwed up the auto bids was that their tiebreaker system was broken. So if we really want to blame anybody about JMU getting in, we can say that we can blame the ACC. They screwed that up. They should not have had their tiebreaker system so flawed and broken. But if we were in a perfect world where the ACC had a normal tiebreaker system where you would have had Miami and Virginia playing for the ACC championship game, it would have made a lot more sense at 8 to then have your Power Four champions and then your next 4 at large. And I like that. Now I don't. I think I do like the top 4 get a bye, or however you want to do that in an eight team system. Maybe you don't have 4 teams have a bye. Maybe you just have 2 have a bye. However we end up drawing that out. I personally think that 8 is my magic number for the playoffs. And if you were to look at number 1 through 8, I don't think there's any argument that's the top 8 teams. Now you could probably argue for how you're going to switch teams around, maybe Ole Miss or Texas A&M or anything like that. But anyways, I digress. I think the playoff committee overall, when we're talking about the system that is at hand, the playoff committee got it right. I have some problems with the system and how it's designed, but I think the playoff committee got it right. All right, brackets set, rematches on. Sooners taking on the Tide. Let's talk about that real quick. Oklahoma, number 8 seed. Alabama, number 9 seed. Currently, basically a pick 'em. I mean, it's Alabama -1.5, so they're still favoring Alabama over Oklahoma, and it's kind of just a little bit baffling. But I understand Vegas's odds and how they make it and how it's going to lean towards that. But man, it's great because it's the first ever home playoff game for Oklahoma. Obviously, it's only the second year that they've done this format. And I love the home format, the home game format in the first round. I know I was talking to my dad, and he didn't like it. He doesn't like the home atmosphere of it. He doesn't like that you get an advantage for being at home. But I say first round, first of all, the fans get to have a little bit more ease of getting there. Now you could say, yeah, but the fans are going to show up regardless. Who cares? It's much easier for the fans to show up. And then on top of that, the team that does better and is ranked higher does deserve a little bit of a nudge and given some sort of reward for playing so well. And so, you talk about seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8. I think they do deserve some sort of reward for playing so well throughout the season. I would even be in favor of even possibly looking at having the second round and maybe just go all the way to the semifinals with the home series. I personally love adding that in because the parity, or sorry, not the parity, but the pageantry in college football is what makes it so special, and that comes from your home environments. So personally, I really love the home environments. Obviously, I love it even more for Oklahoma being able to host that home game. So it's also the first college football playoff appearance since 2019, Oklahoma's 5th playoff appearance. Now, I will say I don't really like talking about the past 4 because there was a couple of them that we as Oklahoma fans saw them get so close yet so far away. And then there was, others that they got so close and just so close in general. Yeah, it was very, very, very fun, to see Oklahoma get in this year. I just really hope that this is a turning of the tide, turning of the tide, pun not intended, but let's turn the page here and get ourselves a playoff win, because that's one thing against Oklahoma in the playoffs is that they haven't won in the playoffs. Being there 5 times, still haven't won a playoff game. Now, in all reality, Oklahoma really has gotten the short end of the stick. They have had to play some very tough teams. You think of back whenever they played Alabama, what was that, 2018? And then 2019 LSU was just crazy. The fact that, what was that in 2016, 17, when Oklahoma, Georgia in the Rose Bowl, the fact that Oklahoma hung in there so well against such a tough Georgia team, that was really incredible to see. But anyways, regardless, this has to be much different. And I think it's a matchup that Oklahoma should like. And if we're talking about a chip on the shoulder, Oklahoma has got to be one of the biggest teams with a chip on their shoulder in this entire field. I really don't know of anyone that's got a bigger chip on their shoulder, because there's many pundits that are saying that Oklahoma doesn't deserve to be there. So that they have that, and we also have an Oklahoma team who is also an underdog to a team that they've already beaten and is constantly underdogs. And there's a lot to be frustrated with national media, and I think national media just seems like they hate Oklahoma, or they just don't respect Oklahoma. And Bob Stoops brought up a good point in an interview that I heard, that he was talking about how back in the day, whenever we were winning, it was that we didn't have enough offense to win, and here we are winning, and then now we have the sorry, it's the other way around. We didn't have the defense to be able to win it, and now they're trying to say that we don't have the offense to win it, and it's just so crazy. But it was all my life. It felt like, until the last 5 to 8 years, maybe not even that long ago, that it was always defense wins championships. That was always the mantra, and I don't understand when we went away from that. So I just think that, man, I think that with the defense and special teams, Oklahoma really could win really big. But anyways, we will talk more about the matchup as we get closer to it. But it really was a special season for Oklahoma. I think when you look at the resume and what they were able to do, specifically after that Ole Miss game, I think that's really where it just felt like a team that was counted out found their way back in it, with a big win on the road in Knoxville, going to Rocky Top, a big win against Alabama, on the road in Tuscaloosa, a big win against Missouri, a tough Missouri team. And then, an LSU team that felt like, man, they were just fighting to the last second to play spoiler. And you end up fending them off to come away with a 10-win season. Just really, really incredible. Really, really awesome to see. And when you look at it too, Oklahoma is the only team in the country with 5 wins against AP ranked opponents. So I mean, and you can take that for what it's worth. They also have the most current ranked opponent wins. So kind of tying, I believe, for that. So you've got Alabama, Tennessee. I guess I'm not sure if Missouri is ranked. So maybe that's not the case anymore. But Oklahoma definitely has, I think, the best resume. Now, I understand that you got to look at Ohio State and Indiana and say that the undefeated seasons that they had, and even Texas Tech with an 11-1. There's several teams with 11-1. I would say there's not many teams that really have much of an argument. I'd say that your top 4 teams, outside of them, I think Oklahoma has the best resume. You talk about Texas A&M and how they've faced really the lower half of the conference. That's kind of incredible. And so I think Oklahoma has one of the best, I'd say top 5 best overall resumes in all of college football this year. And I really don't think there's much of a debate for that. So anyways, huge, very excited for Oklahoma to be able to host a playoff game. We'll talk more about that playoff game as we get closer and kind of leading up to that playoff game, and maybe even talk about a few of the other playoff games as well, especially as it relates to Oklahoma. But how about news of the day? The SEC All SEC honors, really fun. It's awesome. I like this a lot. I mean, it was really all about special teams and defense, which is what this entire season has been all about. So I'm really, really happy. At first, let's start off with the first team guys. You got Tate Sandell, obviously the guy that deserves it. One of the Lou Groza Award finalists, 3-time SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. He's 23 for 24 on field goal tries this season. He's made each of his last 23, so 23 straight field goals in a row. So he missed his very first field goal as a Sooner and hasn't missed one since. And he's had some tough ones. He's 7 for 7 on field goals of 50-plus yards, 10 for 10 on field goals of 45-plus yards. And he's got 4 makes of 55 yards. And it's a school record. He's 96% field goal rate. It leads the SEC and ranks second nationally. He's made all 32 of his PAT attempts. So, I mean, there's not much more that you can say about Tate Sandell and what he's been able to do. So, special teams theme, you also go over to Grayson Miller, who also got first team punter for Oklahoma. Man, he's been amazing. He's actually 12th nationally and leads the SEC, averaging 46.2 yards per punt. Two-time SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. So I mean, he's been great. He's booted a ton. He's also got a single season school record for 23 punts of 50 plus yards with a long of 66, and he's had 24 down inside the 20-yard line with only 6 touchbacks. So a great season for him. Also earning first team SEC. Then you get Isaiah Satania, who I believe I've got written down first team, but I thought he was second team. I think he deserves first team. So, anyways, yeah, I'm looking at it first team. An amazing season for him. A guy too that we were talking about some of the transfers. You talk about Giovanni Gibson. We were excited for Jaden Gibson. You had we talked a little bit on this show about Keontez Lewis, one of my favorites that I was looking at towards the beginning of the season. We were looking all over the place. I think Deion Burks we talked about before the season, but the guy who really sprung onto the scene was Isaiah Satania, a guy who I don't think was really really looked at all in the offseason as being a potential game changer the way that he has. Now, I definitely thought that he would be a great key piece, an extra depth piece for Oklahoma in the wide receiver room. But man, I just think that I don't know. This is it was I didn't expect him to be a team leader in receiving yards. So close to 1,000 yards. He's 948 yards receiving yards, 79 yards per game, and also 7 touchdowns on the season. Congratulations to all 3 of those guys for first team. And then you've got Febechi Wiwu, second team offensive lineman. Have to love to see that younger guy getting in there. And you know what? He actually deserves a lot of respect. I heard in Brent Venables' press conference the other day that he was talking to the press about whether Jake Makula would be back in. And he talked about him. I think Oklahoma's offensive line as a whole, I really have to watch this back, and this might be a hot take, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like the offensive line looked like the best overall throughout that game against LSU that they had all season when Febechi Wiwu, I believe, was the one starting at center. So I was really shocked to see him perform so well. There wasn't a mishandled snap, which I think has not been addressed at all. And if it has, then it hasn't been addressed enough. So, I think you look at him and what he was able to do. And I'm looking at my notes too. It was he was the center in that game against LSU. So that was the first time in his collegiate career. And then when he was, for his first time in his collegiate career, he logged the second highest grade by an OU offensive lineman all season, the PFF grade. So, I mean, it was just an incredible performance from him. I actually prefer him in there at center. So, I mean, not a cut to Jake Makula, but I just felt like Febechi Wiwu at center felt like the best offensive line that Oklahoma had put out on the field all season long. It really felt great. Ben Anderson, the long snapper, cool to see him get it. That's a guy that I think you can overlook when you're talking about guys on the team. And then you look at Peyton Bowen, defensive back, and he also got second team. We'll talk about his brother Eli Bowen in just a minute. But second team, Peyton Bowen, he had a great season. So he's 6th on the team with 44 tackles, including 1 for a loss. He has the blocked field goal on his resume as well. I mean, great. He's had a ton of big time plays, big time key moment plays that you really like to see out of Peyton Bowen. Well deserving, and I love seeing both the twins get all SEC honors too. Very special there. Love seeing the brothers out on the field together. And then Taylor Wine, man, deserving, 100% deserving. Played all 12 games, 14 tackles for a loss, which is fourth most in the SEC. Just incredible. He's also second on the team with 6 sacks among 37 total tackles. Just incredible. He also has an interception on the season, which is really cool for him. And also, just looking at, he's also got a pass breakup on the season as well. But he's also the one that blocked that second quarter field goal attempt, and also the strip sack in the fourth quarter for the win against Alabama back in November. So really big. Sharon Kanik also got third team there at tight end. What a season he's had, regardless of the fact that he didn't end up kind of carrying all that momentum over, but still had 511 yards, 12.8 yards per catch. He really deserved to have gotten the ball much more this season. It was evident. Still no touchdown either, which I'm really upset about. So hopefully we can find him in the end zone, get him a few more touches. But he got third team all SEC honors. And then Eli Bowen, the other Bowen brothers, the other of the Bowen brothers. What's crazy for him is that he didn't even play in the beginning of the season. So the fact that he didn't even play, he still had 19 tackles, 2 interceptions, three PBUs. He returned that one 87-yard touchdown against Alabama for a pick 6. And then his other one was a big one against Missouri. So I mean, yeah, he's just been great, and also off of those 2 interceptions, 100 reception yards, which lead the SEC, and is also 13th nationally. So that's really cool. But overall, really cool to see all these guys get SEC honors. Very well deserved. Oklahoma had a total of 11 first, second, or third team honors, and then behind only Georgia's 12. So, and most of it was all defense, special teams and defense. That's pretty much the gist of it, but much deserved for all those guys getting their honors. All right, let's see. We will talk more about the game against Alabama and why. Like I said, we'll touch on that a little bit more. But the immediate path, if Oklahoma can win, they'll go to the Rose Bowl, which I think is awesome. I love the Rose Bowl. I think that's one of the more iconic bowls. But then going against Indiana, an Indiana game who, first of all, I like the matchup between Oklahoma and Indiana. And I feel my first gut reaction is Oklahoma can win that game against Alabama. Or sorry, if they can win against Alabama. If they can win against Alabama, then I think they can beat Indiana. I know Indiana. My first gut reaction says Oklahoma can beat Indiana. But then I step back and I'm like, okay, but this is an Indiana who just beat Ohio State in a very gritty, gutty fashion. Their defense is very much underrated. And I think Indiana as a whole, even though they're number 1 in the nation right now, they're extremely underrated because of the logo. And I think Curt Cignetti, what he's done, man, he could have a Cinderella story type thing as a number 1 seed, which is so weird to even say. I've heard that comparison, a Cinderella story. It's not really a Cinderella story unless you're talking Cinderella story as of 2 years ago. No one was talking about him. But anyways, I think that matchup will be very fun, and it's a winnable matchup. I really like the bracket that Oklahoma has to go through, because then it'd be most likely my assumption would be the winner of Oregon, Texas Tech. Again, 2 teams that I think Oklahoma would match up well against. And so I'm really excited about Oklahoma's path, their immediate path, having to go through Alabama, which is a very winnable game, obviously, because Oklahoma has already won against Alabama. And I really liked Brent Venables' response to what are you going to do, about slowing down Ty Simpson, who had a ton of yards against you. And he said, I'll let him have a great game and I'll take the win. Just a classic response to that. So really looking forward to it. I think there could be a ton of success for Oklahoma. Just getting past Alabama, I really feel good about Oklahoma's chances. Getting past Alabama, that could be, man. You're starting to punch your ticket. You're starting to feel really good about punching your ticket to the national championship. Now, my personal pick, I think the best team in this entire field based on what they did in that SEC championship game, Georgia looks like the toughest team. So my early pick right now, I'll kind of throw that out there, kind of give it a little bit of a spoiler alert. My pick is Georgia. Obviously, I'll be cheering for Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has a chance against anybody. We've been saying that really all season long. But anyways, we will talk more about the games, the matchups, all of that as we get closer to them. I'll jump over to the chat real quick. Again, one quick reminder that all super chats will be read live on the show. You can support the show by becoming a member for as low as $2.99 a month. Just click join next to the channel. Click join. Become a member. $2.99 a month. It's as cheap. It's cheaper than a coffee. I just bought literally. I drink my coffee just straight black. Just asked for a large black coffee at the coffee shop this morning and had to pay $4 for that. So I mean, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee in the morning. If you're a soda person, whatever that is, any of that, it's probably about the same price as that. But $2.99 a month, become a member. Otherwise, you can also check out the merch shop, vocfb.com/shop. If you go over to the Oklahoma section, all of that supports the channel directly. All of the merch supports the channel. Supports the network as a whole as well. So go check it out, vocfb.com/shop to support the channel and the Voice of College Football Network. Let's jump over to the chat real quick, though. Talking about merch, Stacy says her shirts should be here Thursday. I'm sorry they take so long, but we basically make them to order, just that we don't have a bunch of overstock. Appreciate your patience, though, and very much appreciate you supporting us, Stacy. You're always one of the more supportive ones too, so I appreciate you, and for reminding me to put that link down in the chat or down in the description. It should be down there now. So anyways, Nicholas says, what's up? He says, I agree with dropping Alabama, but I would just drop them one spot to keep skin in the game in the future. Why would teams play starters if there's no consequence? Yeah, I think if you're playing a game, there has to be some consequences. I don't like punishing a team for losing the conference championship. For example, Ohio State. Ohio State did not get punished for losing their conference championship. The committee just did the right thing, and head-to-head has to matter, so you put Indiana above Ohio State. Ohio State lost by 3 points. Should they get punished and be dropped down to number 3 or 4? No, that's punishing a team for losing their conference championship game, in a game that was very close, and they had every bit of right to win that game. If they don't miss the field goal, if they don't miss that fourth down conversion by literally like 4 inches, it felt like, if a few things were to have gone their way, they win that game. And so I don't think you should punish a team like that in that type of a conference championship game. BYU, Alabama, you both got dominated, so you should be moved down, and your rankings should be it should be reacted to the way that you lost. So that's kind of the way I feel. I want to go back to Nicholas real quick, because he says, I can't believe BYU was not in the top 12 of the Coach of the Year list. I had a dream last night of Kip getting strip sack. Looked very happy. I hope it happens again in real life. Yeah, I absolutely hope so. But going to BV, not getting in the top 12, I agree. And there's a few teams on there, like the Kent State coach. There was a few teams on there that I was like, okay, we could talk about them. But the one that really doesn't make any sense to me is Marcus Freeman, who led a very mediocre, just average season. And I say that because their only good win was against USC. So a very average season, didn't even make the playoffs. And Marcus Freeman's talked about as a Coach of the Year. Your team digressed. Your team went from a 1-loss team to a 2-loss team and not making the playoffs. I don't understand that at all. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. And I think Curt Cignetti deserves the Coach of the Year. Curt Cignetti deserves to be the winner. There is no debate. There is zero debate. You cannot change my mind. You can throw out whatever stats you want. He brought Indiana, who I used to live in Indiana. I grew up in Indiana. I went to plenty of games. Used to be able to get into just about any Indiana game you wanted for $5 a piece. There was some games that we got into where kids went in for free. So even when I was 14, you could see by my baby face, when I was 14, I was still 12 or under, because then I got into the game for free. It was just he brought that team who would have been happy to make a bowl game. If Kurt Signetti could win 6, 7 wins every single year, Indiana would keep him around forever. They make a bowl game, they feel good about it. If what my prediction for what Kurt Signetti could do with Indiana was maybe they could win 8 or 9 on the regular. And yeah, and that would have just blown Indiana's mind. Their brains would have just exploded with excitement. But the first year as head coach, he gets them into the college football playoffs, performs really close against the Notre Dame team. I don't care what people want to say. Go back and look at that game again and pay attention to the fourth quarter and what Indiana did to keep themselves alive in a game where it felt like they were dead in the rights. He played close against a Notre Dame team who ended up making it to the national championship. Uh, yeah, I think Kurt Signetti doing that and then turning around and having an even better season and more definitively better too, because I think it was in some ways an easier schedule for Indiana. Not much of that is really to their fault, because some of that easier schedule is just because certain Big Ten teams aren't as good as they should be. Penn State being one of them. But anyways, Kurt Signetti deserves that coach of the year. But I no doubt think that Brent Venables bringing a 6-6 Oklahoma team to a 10-win team, making it to the college football playoffs, putting some respect on the brand of Oklahoma again, and you don't put him in the top 12. That is absolutely ridiculous. Mr. Dilligaff is in the chat. He says, "Love the home dog roll. Bring it." Yeah, I love it too. I love being the home environment. I love that, and then I really love it being the home dog on top of it against a team that Oklahoma knows that they can beat because they've already done it. 100%. Appreciate you in the chat. The smoke. He says, "Yeah, remember that one playoff game, that QB, forget his name, Jalen something. Yeah, that guy went from being a running QB to pure 100% pocket passer in that playoff game. Not like he threw that game or anything. Yeah, no, I don't think that was the case. I don't know. That was just a really strange game, and it was also LSU. That 2019 LSU team was the best LSU team. Oklahoma should not have lost by that much. No, what was that, like 63-13 or something crazy like that? Should have never got blown out like that. But they probably were never going to win that matchup. I didn't have a whole lot of hopes, but I just remember being demoralized by halftime. Was it Jamar Chase that had four receiving touchdowns on Oklahoma in that game or something? Yeah, a terrible game. And something felt off about that game, no doubt. And I don't think it was Jalen Hurts either. I'm not blaming Jalen Hurts one bit for that. If he was staying in the pocket too much, I don't remember that. But if he was staying in the pocket too much, that was probably coaching game call, game plan, is to, hey, this is what you're doing on this play. And so if that was the case, I don't remember that part of it, but if that was the case, then I don't blame him, but definitely I don't have any problem blaming that coaching staff. Let's go back to that coaching staff and ream them a new one for it. Corey Alexander's in the chat. What's up? He says, "I'm going to the home playoff game. I think if we beat Alabama if we beat Bama and Indiana, we're going to end up in the Natty." First off, happy for you, excited for you. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. Man, yeah, it really feels like it because, like the smoke said, he says, got Tech or Oregon after Indiana. Yeah, and that's, man, I like either two of those teams against Oklahoma. I really do. The Modern Prospector says this Sooner team is special, brother. It absolutely is a very special team, making it all the way. Our resident Sunshine Pumper says, "I think the Sooners will beat Bama. I truly do." Stacy believes it. And you know what? She also believes that the Sooners would go 10-2, regardless of losing in a terrible fashion against Texas, and regardless of losing to Ole Miss. She kept the faith, and she said, "Josh, I know you're skeptical of Oklahoma going on the road to Tennessee and Tuscaloosa in back-to-back games and winning, but I'm telling you right now, they're going to do it. And by golly, they did it." So you know what? I won't say anything poorly about your opinion because I respect your opinion, Stacy. You were right. Remember, I was the one that was wrong. So uh, I predicted 8-4. Now to that point, I also said 8-4, but I have a sneaky suspicion that Oklahoma would go 10-2. But that felt like a homer take from me, and I try really hard not to do that on this show because it's just not what I'm about. I try to be as realistic as I possibly can. Going back to Nicholas, he says, "Who has played in more rock fights? I will take a tough team over a talented team, no doubt. This is a gritty, grimy team. It's really good team. Very excited." Going back to the modern perspective, he says, "Georgia going down. Who are they going to go down to? Because I think maybe Ohio State, but that's a very tough one. I don't know. I think that's the toughest team for me." Okay, you're saying OU takes Georgia down. OU wins 35-14 against Georgia. Final prediction. Yeah, first of all, very skeptical. If we want to talk sunshine pumper, Stacy got her title revoked because a modern perspective 35-14 would be absolutely crazy. Excuse me, but if we want to say if we want to say Oklahoma can take down Georgia in the national championship, let's talk about it. Let's do that for sure. Anyways, going over to Jeremy Stevens in the chat, he says, "Keep snubbing the Sooners. We feed on disrespect like 99 2000." Yeah, it's been a team that Oklahoma has fed off that all season long. It's been truly special. And then also Jeremy also says Signetti is good. Respect. Yeah, have to show respect to him. And the way that he's called his shots, he's cocky, no doubt. It's extreme confidence that leads into cockiness, no doubt. It's the kind of cockiness that I like personally. There's a fine line between like getting overboard, and I could pull out some examples, but I love Signetti. Craig Air Force, he agrees with me. Georgia winning this. Yeah, I feel like Georgia's the best team. After what they did to Alabama, it wasn't just the score, it was how they did it. Look at how aggressive they are. If they play like that every single game in the playoffs, I just don't know how anybody's going to beat them. I really don't. They are so tough. So my early pick is Georgia. Now, if Oklahoma could come out and do that to Alabama in the first round and just like pummel Alabama, put up 30 plus points, if it could be like a 34-10 type of game, then I'd say, hey, Oklahoma's got a really good shot. I like Oklahoma's matchup against anybody. But ultimately, I think Georgia definitely seems like the toughest team right now. Ohio State could put up a really good fight against Georgia. That'll be a fun matchup because it'd be a tough Ohio State defense, no doubt. But they also had a kind of softer schedule throughout the season, so I don't know, just a lot to look at there. Going back to Nicholas, he says, "Do you think OU has an advantage over Indiana? Consider they've played 7 teams that only won 5 or less games, and Ohio State and Oregon have similar schedule." I do think, so like I said, I think my gut reaction is that Oklahoma has the advantage over Indiana personally. I think Vegas currently ranks it where it's like Indiana on neutral field would be like a 9-point favorite, something like that, 9 or 10 point favorite. But when you look at these two teams, it would be a very much defensive team. Now, one thing that I'll say is Oklahoma against Indiana's defense, Oklahoma's offense against Indiana's defense. Oklahoma's played those types of defenses all season. I think Indiana's defense is probably just as good as, I know it's probably very controversial to say this, but I'd say Indiana's defense is about as good as Alabama's defense, maybe about almost right around as good as Missouri's defense. And Oklahoma's just found ways to get past those teams. Indiana LSU defense, I think those two are very comparable when LSU is at the top of their game on defense. Anyway, I think Oklahoma has faced those defenses all year. The only defense that Indiana has faced that was close to Oklahoma was Ohio State. And I'd say that Ohio State might have the upper edge in some statistical categories, but overall, Oklahoma's defense wins games for Oklahoma, just the way that we understand. We know that. But yeah, I think Oklahoma has the upper edge over Indiana personally. But like I said, I'm leery to feeling that way because I just think that we don't give Indiana the respect that they deserve. I really don't. So I think Indiana is disrespected in this playoff bracket just as much as Oklahoma in many ways. It's just that they're undefeated, so they're the only undefeated team left. How crazy is that? Uh, Man, 13-0 Indiana. I love it because, like I said, I grew up going to their games a lot because we were only like an hour away from the stadium. You go up there, and there was nobody in the stands. So you could go up to concessions whenever you wanted, and you go up at halftime, and you weren't really waiting in a very long line. It was a nice stadium. Wasn't anything spectacular, but it was a good stadium. Fun atmosphere in the Oak and Bucket game. That was a really packed game most of the time against Purdue, but I'm really happy for Indiana, and I would love that matchup against Indiana, but I can't watch that matchup with my dad. My father is a Nebraska fan. He already told me he's rooting for Indiana if no matter who they're going against, and so he's like, I'll still root for Oklahoma, and I'll be happy for him, but it's going to be really hard for me not to cheer for them during that game. So got to watch that one on my own. Stacy says, I worry more when we're expected to win. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Oklahoma playing with a chip on their shoulder, very much so. Craig Air Force, he says, you're going to have to blitz and stop the run versus Georgia, no doubt. And that's something that Oklahoma can do really well. Yeah, absolutely. If Sooners do not win it, I pick Georgia to win it all. Yeah, I just think Georgia seems like the most aggressive team. And then obviously, too, I think just like what Brent Venables said, your season restarts here in the playoffs. Your season, you're basically starting a brand new season. So you can't really focus on the good or the bad of what has happened throughout the season anymore. Teams play different in the playoffs. I think Ohio State last year was a perfect example of that. A team that was kind of controversial on whether they should be in or not, and they ended up making it in and ran the table and just completely killed everybody in their path. Ran all over Tennessee, went and just pummeled Oregon, an Oregon team who beat Ohio State earlier on in the season too. And then they ended up really dominating that Notre Dame game as well. I mean, Notre Dame, it just didn't ever feel like Notre Dame had a chance last year. So teams can be different in the playoffs. Now, I think Oklahoma has a chance to do that. Maybe John Mateer finally comes out of his shell and plays like John Mateer that we know can be there. The John Mateer that we got in the Michigan game, the John Mateer that we had transfer into Oklahoma, that we saw those highlights at Washington State, the confidence. It's not even just that he has to perform like statistically the way that he did at Washington State. It's just that John Mateer doesn't even show the confidence that he showed at whenever he was at Washington State. That's what concerns me. If we can get John Mateer, the John Mateer that has that type of confidence and that kind of moxie, that kind of poise, and an aura about him, I think Oklahoma's in a really good spot there. And I think John Mateer can play way better just by showing that confidence. And he just hasn't shown that really since the Texas game. But and I guess going back even further, he really hasn't shown that much since the Auburn game. Like I'm saying, from the Texas game through, just really hasn't felt like we've seen John Mateer at peak John Mateer. But if we can get that in the playoffs, which is it's on the table, you could get that. I really think that Oklahoma has a really good shot here in the playoffs. We will get to more in the playoffs and more about these matchups. But yeah, I think. I think Oklahoma is looking at a really good shot right now. The path to the national championship is going to be a very fun one. But anyways, if you haven't already, get your tickets. Make sure to show up. Be loud. I'm not sure if there's any kind of like wear something specific. I would say just wear crimson. Either crimson. I would love to see a blackout personally. Do a blackout for the the biggest game that has ever been held. I mean, has there ever been a bigger game than this in Norman? I don't think there has been. So I'm all in favor of supporting a blackout. But anyways, be loud. This is what we've been waiting for. It's going to be a fun one. We appreciate everybody so much for tuning in tonight. Really looking forward to it. We will be touching on the matchup a little bit more as we get closer to it. Kind of have to see how some things play out to really make our true predictions. Obviously, final predictions will be the Thursday before the game, so make sure to tune in. We're live every Monday with the Sooner Smiths, Tuesdays, and then, of course, Thursdays as well. So make sure to tune in live with us on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.